Thank you. Thank you. Is it working? Okay. Thank you very much. Last time we were here was 17 years ago, and what happened that night seemed to have a really profound effect on our lives, so it's very nice to come back and say thank you very much for this honour, but there are an awful lot of people that I really need to thank, and I hope you can bear with me. Firstly, I'd like to thank our precious families for putting up with us. Mine are over there somewhere. I want to thank Andy Ross and Dave Balfe, who discovered us. They're over there. Tony Wadsworth, who has always been a pillar of strength for all of us, and is a very inspirational individual himself. Both Mike Smiths, Ian Huffam, Richard Bray, Julian Headley, everyone at CMO, all our crew, especially Smoggy and Stu, Parlophone when it had a tea lady, and also Parlophone now, but it doesn't have a tea lady. Regine, RMP, Neve, our producers, Stephen Street, William Orbit, Ben Hillier, Steve Lovell, but more than any of those people, I really want to dedicate this award to a very special person. He took us as four completely broke young men and kind of helped us in so many ways. He was a friend, he was a great business manager, he absolutely looked after us a treat. He started right back with an individual called Tito Burns, which probably not many of you can remember. He was there when Bob Dylan played the Albert Hall. He went on to work with John Cale, with Thin Lizzy, with Ultravox, and in latter years he helped the career of MIA, but not for long. Who else? God, there were loads of other people. Anyway, can the camera go on to Chris Morrison? Because I really want to say thank you for everything, mate. You're a very dear friend. Right, that's it. Thanks very much for putting up with us. Thank you.
The mighty Blur, a lot of love and respect here in the room for them, and don't forget they're going to be closing tonight's show with an incredible performance. I promise you, if you're a fan, you don't want to miss it.
Damon and Graham are here. Hello, thank you for coming.
Hello.
Hello.
I was just saying off the air, I expected like you come in and you both be kind of a little bit. Are you alright, Graham?
Yeah, there's some music.
No, I think that's in your head. No, it is a little bit.
Muzak in my head.
It's like it.
What a
my head.
It's a Wii game, or
yeah, it's a Wii game. Yeah.
We now entered a Wii game.
Yeah.
It's like
in the digital age.
It's a lift.
I was expecting you would come in and given fairly much every news website has got the news that you're going to be playing a gig next year, and it's been on the telly. I thought today might have been a bit of a whirlwind for you, but not at all.
Well, to be honest with you, we haven't really done anything today. I mean, I've just been going about my business. So I had half a sandwich on Brit Lane. And
what did you have?
Well, I got really hungry because I had to go to Wapping, so I got off the tube at Liverpool Street, and I thought I'll get something on Brit Lane, like a samosa or something. I don't want to spoil my tea.
No,
I was having tea with Graham later, but I got so hungry because I think it was cold. Because as you see, I've only got a jacket on. Didn't dress properly this morning, so I kind of I succumbed to a mozzarella and tomato.
And how was
sandwich.
it?
Well, I only ate half of it. Not because I didn't like it, just that I didn't want to spoil my tea.
Was it a paninis?
No, it was a baguette.
But you need your carbohydrate in the winter. You need your carbohydrates.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
We're just giving Graham a mince pie, and you were telling him that you have your own recipe for mince pies.
No.
Oh, okay. Clotted cream mixed into it.
Oh no! I just said I mixed some cream up to make it thicker.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I thought you'd invented, like Heston Blumenthal. I thought you'd invented your own secret formula for mince pies.
Well, I don't think that. I mean, the mince pie is such a difficult thing to get right. You know. I mean, personally, I prefer them with puff pastry than with the sort of the suet pastry.
I like the ones that taste more like Branston pickle in the middle than. Oh, is you? Who's ringing you?
That. Sorry, that's terrible.
It might be Heston Blumenthal.
That's really unprofessional of me.
Excuse me, it's too early for mince pies.
So are you even aware of the reaction it's got today? The announcement that you're going to be doing the gig next summer.
No, to be honest with you, but I mean, you know, for us, it's something that we've been thinking about for a while, and we've had this hiatus for 8 years, and it's, you know, we're coming back into kind of focus, excuse the pun, because Graham and I kind of have sort of reconciled our differences that really drove the band apart.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're really kind of excited about playing again, so that's why we're back. So all the other stuff is kind of not really relevant to why we're doing it. Why we're doing it is because we think we can bring something fresh to the music, and it feels like it's the right time for us to come back and play those songs.
And when was the first time it was mooted then? You know, when was the first time that you two were on speaking terms again? How did that happen?
Well, it hasn't been that long, but, you know, like these sort of silly things that happen between people who've grown up together.
Yeah.
It can seem like it's an impossible task to reconcile, and then just sort of almost out of thin air, it's all forgotten and it's okay.
And who sent the first email, or who made the first call?
Well, I think I don't think either of us did, actually. I think
a third party,
someone else did,
a matchmaker.
Well, I think
just probably someone in the band. You know, at some other point talked. I don't know. Do you know what? It's not really important.
It's very complicated. It's not as simple as that. It wasn't as simple as just making phone calls to come together again. I really had to feel clear of a lot of the difficulties I was having in the early 2000s, and I got clear of them with doing a lot of work on myself, you know, learning, you know, writing songs or whatever, you know, doing a lot of that kind of thing, and going on my own little trip. And, you know, Damon's been on, you know, a few trips of his own, obviously, and so that's I've forgotten where I was really, but yeah.
And how about
it's kind of complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated.
So forget being in the same room together and just eating a meal or whatever it was you did. What about the first time you went in a room together and plugged instruments in? You know, how was that? What was
that was in about 1983. 1983.
Okay, first time after the first time after
maybe 82. Actually, when was it?
Plugged instruments in.
I've known you since you were 11, haven't I?
Something there. 11
and we started playing pretty much immediately, didn't we?
Well, I was the only
person
boy in the school who played the sax.
Yeah.
And and my reaction to Damon wasn't one that I wanted to murder him like most other people.
Yeah.
I kind of found him mildly offensive and funny.
Yeah.
Which is, I still find him mildly offensive and funny.
So that's the answer to your question, really.
And after the hiatus then, when the four of you got back together, the first time you went into a rehearsal room and plugged the instruments in, how was that? You haven't played together yet?
That was 1989.
1989 was the
when
first time we all
So
plugged in
High,
together.
wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you haven't played any music as Blur yet, since the hiatus?
No.
So you've got that to look forward to?
Yes.
What do you think the first thing you will do is, you know, just practicing? Do you think you will go in there and do a cover version? Do you think you'll go in and play one of the old songs? Do you think you'll just go in and...
one.
No, I mean, just to warm up. Just to warm up, what would you do?
I don't think we'll be able to get through a song. I mean, imagine if we say, right, what's the easiest? Song 2, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll be able to get through it without laughing. Because it will just seem so odd.
Yeah.
It will just be it will be sort of quite emotional, really. It'll be kind of overwhelming, but it'll be hilarious. I mean, I see a lot of this as being just really, really nice because, you know, friendship is back. You never really.
I think it's very simple. You know,
like
we wrote some really kind of interesting and sort of warm songs together, and quite a long period has gone since those songs were written. But I think a lot of it, I think, feels right now, and I think in a way it will be a really special thing next summer when we play those songs again.
And is it about revisiting those songs, or you know?
Yeah, it's all about that. It's about us kind of revisiting everything about ourselves and approaching it in inevitably a fresh way because of all the things we've done in between. So it's for the fans and it's for us, you know.
And is there anything that would stop you when you get in a room together doing some new stuff?
But no, not at all. But
that's not on the agenda.
Well, not really at the moment. What's it's going to be hard enough just to learn all those songs.
Yeah, I don't think we can tell about that. I think when we've been playing, when we play together, it may become apparent that that's a possibility. But I don't know whether it is.
All right. Well, I'm going to play.
I don't think we could know that right now.
No.
I'm going to play one of the old records, Tracy Jacks. What do you remember from this period of Blow? Was it a good period personally? Obviously, professionally, it was a great period. But you know, in terms of how much
it was fantastic because I mean, what Part Life changed our universes really. You know, everything changed after Part Life for us.
I sometimes think that word that got bandied around so much at the time, Britpop's become a bit of a dirty word, but in some senses it was a great time, even though these movements only ever exist really in
fleetingly.
They exist fleetingly, and they're also something that the press decide to call it. But there was likes of yourself and Suede at the vanguard of that, and then after that, when it hit and it was in the big public consciousness, there's good stuff around. You know, Pulp were a great band, and you know, you think of Oasis. Those first couple of albums were brilliant records. It's with a bit of distance. Is that a movement you would associate yourselves with, or think, yeah, well, actually, it wasn't so bad at the time?
I think what was interesting is that those two bands you mentioned, Pulp and Oasis, they both kind of got to that point where they really connected with huge sort of volumes of people, and so everything became very tribal, and that's can be good, and I think in that case it didn't sort of turn out bad, but I think it just became such a sort of it was so popular, and it was so different to what had been beforehand. Not necessarily musically, but more in its kind of social kind of sort of relevance. And I think what happened kind of followed that was it was difficult for people to kind of sort of move out of that shadow, you know. So you know, like anything, it was good and bad, but
because you know, as we were just saying, you know, you're not a conventional rock band. How easy was it for you to be goaded into the whole thing? They've got a single out the same day as us, so you know, was it record companies? Was it just press hysteria to get embroiled in all that at the time? Because you just don't seem the types, really.
Well, we were definitely involved in it. Can't kind of sort of rewrite history.
Yeah. But what do you think led to that?
I think it was naivety, maybe more than anything. You know.
There's nobody at the record.
It was a naive decision. For everyone involved.
Yeah, I think so. And we're just talking about the hiatus you've had these last few years. How much awareness have you all had of the different projects that you've been doing?
Yeah, I think we're all really, we've known what everyone's doing.
So, like when Graham's, you know, you've made some great records. When they've come out, have you sent them to Damon, or have you gone to the record shop and bought them?
We've always had the same management, and we've always kind of had essentially the same people working around us. So it's never really been like that. I mean, it's always, you know, to be honest with you, Graham and I have been really involved in doing our own thing, and I think that's something that we really had to sort out, because I think we were too reliant on each other, and we were just saying that earlier. was that you know, it's really difficult in a band because you get to a point where you rely on these 3 or 4, 2, whatever people so much, and it's very difficult sometimes to be totally honest with them because you're worried that it's going to kind of sort of in some way affect your own sort of position and your own security. So everything gets very confused. And the lovely thing about this now is that we've all got our own lives, and we're really clear about what it is we want to do in our lives. So doing this is something that is there because of mutual kind of respect and, you know, a real desire to kind of articulate that music in a way that connects with everyone. It
must be a good feeling to have gone away. So obviously when you're in a band, you're doing a thing, and you've got 4 people hopefully pulling the same way, but sometimes not so. It must be a good feeling to have gone away, done your own thing, be happy with your own thing, have people found a niche and found an audience for your own thing, and know that you're not dependent on that band unit, and that must make it a good feeling to go back to it again. Is that right?
That's what I just said.
Well, yeah, it is.
I just said it so much more succinctly, though, don't you?
I think it's like, you know, we all know our wells have not run dry in that way. So yeah, I mean, there's no act of desperation or anything. Yeah, exactly. So,
did either of you vote for Alex in the conducting thing on the telly?
To be honest with you, I don't really kind of get involved with that. I certainly wouldn't waste my money phoning up for something like that.
And did either of you vote for Dave in the local council elections?
Not my borough.
Ah, I see. Hey, but I think, you know, is he up for being MP at the next election?
No, Dave's studying to be a lawyer at the moment.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, but he's still going to find time to come and play with you next summer.
Well,
these are awkward questions, aren't they?
It's been really awkward. You know what?
Why is that so awkward?
Everyone is listening. When he's off, when he's playing a record, he's like really genial and asking really kind of genuine kind of. And as soon as he's got an agenda, as soon as
this isn't an agenda. What's the agenda?
Yeah, it is, man. You just. We can't answer like that. We're just not.
You're not responsible for each other.
We're not responsible for each other, and also we're not part of kind of that kind of culture. You know, to be honest with you, we've always been separate from that, and just because we're going to be doing something that's very mainstream next year, it's not because we buy into all of that. Because I certainly don't. You know.
Yeah. But as we were saying also off the air, we're saying next year it's not about nostalgia. It's not about wallowing in the old songs. It's how do you view it? Because you're very firm. You're not calling it a reunion. It's very much, you know, you're back after a hiatus.
Yeah.
It's not far enough in the past to be causing me nostalgia and any sort of feelings of nostalgia. You know, and a lot of the groups that are our contemporaries are still working, releasing stuff, still playing live.
Do you know what? I thought about it. I think a lot of the songs are sort of allude to some time in the future, and maybe in a way that time in a way has come that they were sort of alluding to and sort of looking forward or not looking forward to, but kind of imagining what it would be like in 10 years, 15 years time from when, you know, they were written. And so that's what for me is really interesting to see if it really kind of still connects, you know.
That's great. Well, the gig is next summer. Will you be doing any warm-up gigs?
We'll have to do a lot of warm-up gigs.
Are there going to be little things?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I personally, I'd like to kind of sort of go and visit some places that sort of, you know, were really important to us when we were sort of growing up.
So, like back in Essex, maybe.
Yep.
And Goldsmiths. Student Union.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, that would fit into that sort of idea, definitely.
And how about beyond?
No, we do need to play. We do need to play quite a lot to sort of get ourselves back up to that. You can't just walk on stage at Hyde Park without really putting the hours in.
I've always thought about. Felt comfortable with musical instruments, you know. Started with a melodica, and a harmonica, and then a piano, and then guitar. And when I sort of worked out how to play guitar. Then I started really writing songs in earnest. Before that, it's sort of been bits of music on the piano. So that's kind of why I'm the sort of songwriter I am, because I've got two very different ways of thinking about music. My parents were really into Indian music and Arabic music and sort of John Cage and things like that, and real old blues and gospel, Mahalia Jackson and things. And then there was the pop stuff, and I suppose the first time I really got excited about pop music was briefly Adam and the Ants, and then got really excited about the Specials. And then when I started knocking about with Graham, he was really into the Beatles and the Who, so I got into all of that, and then discovered the Kinks through that, and then got very caught up in all of that for a few years, and then sort of started going back to sort of feelings about music that I'd had when I was younger.
I suppose I started thinking about music, playing music with other people when I met Damon, really. But we were playing different kinds of stuff. We were like, he was writing kind of more free or sort of jazz sort of kind of things on piano, and I was playing saxophone with him, and then I was learning the guitar at that point as well, really. And our ambitions mine were pretty low, I think, lower than Damon's. I just wanted to be a sort of group, like sort of the same sort of size as My Bloody Valentine or Dinosaur Jr. or whatever. And Damon said one day on the tube he'd quite like one day to involve brass instruments, and I was quite horrified. I don't know, we were only 19, and I was kind of a bit of an indie purist, probably am a little bit still.
It was the first time I felt freedom to write in the way that I wanted to write. You know, we'd been we had a lot of kind of pressure on us on the first record to come up with something, you know. I don't know, we felt we had a pressure, I don't know, I just like, I've always lacked kind of, though it might seem hard to believe, self-belief. And I think when we first signed, I was so kind of sort of grateful that someone had actually, because I'd had about 3 years of going absolutely nowhere and really getting very miserable about what on earth was going to happen to me, because I dropped out of college after a year and just ended up working in a fast food shop at Euston Station, and just lots of kind of unpleasant jobs. So the first album, I kind of was, you know, I when someone in the record company said we want something that's more this, I tended to do it. But in a way, it was very good discipline, because I learned that I had to sort of learn what it was about songwriting. You know, I had to kind of really, because I think, you know, you can only start to write good songs, well, I could, once I'd made a lot of mistakes. It's just unfortunate that some of them are I made them public, but, you know, that happens. They weren't demos, they were finished, and they were supposed to be kind of sort of the first 3 songs of the second album, but but you know, I learned a lot from working with him, and he gave me his 8, but didn't give me, actually made me pay for it. So I bought it off him for £400 or something, and my songwriting it started really in earnest when I got that machine, and I wrote. I've written in some way every at least once, or Part Life and Modern Life's Rubbish, or Part Life especially, was all written on it, and it was. I think that's where I started to get that sense of quite bigger arrangements, because it was the first time I had something at home which I could actually work, because I'm not very technically minded, you know, and I do my guitar track, drum track, 2 vocals, whatever, and I still have 4 tracks left. So, and I had keyboards and stupid instruments. I used to always fill it up, you know. So it was a very, very great thing that he gave me in a sense.
I was listening to Part Life the other night and I was kind of a bit embarrassed. I mean, it's decent pop music, I suppose, but decent pop music doesn't really make me feel happy.
I was very proud of it. I remember listening to it back, thinking, I mean, having not thinking it was going to be really successful, but just thinking it was kind of, it was pretty cool, you know. And I'd never felt particularly cool, so it was nice to feel cool.
When we were recording stuff like on Part Life, I was a little bit, I wouldn't be pressing my points very much. If I wanted, I'd be too embarrassed to say I wanted the guitars louder because I thought I'd appear as an egoist or something like that, so I'd stay quite quiet, and in that way the importance of the guitars went pretty much at the expense of weird keyboards and too many backing vocals. And in that way I think it sounds poppy. But once you take away things that aren't needed, it becomes a little more raw and a bit more essential. Like, I suppose we're learning that with the last two records anyway.
The day that Girls and Boys went in the charts at number 5, I started, you know, bearing in mind that on the previous album we hadn't got any higher than 26. So it was a big leap, you know. I started getting panic attacks and I just, you know, had a really bad time. But I mean, it was bad during the day and great at night because I'd just drink to sort of sort myself out, and then I'd have a great night, but then I'd wake up and it would be even worse the next day. So, you know, you have to be careful of things like that, otherwise they can get on top of you.
I think we've got ourselves too trapped in the falsehoods of pop music, and I kind of realised that, and I think Damon did, that it was going to wreck us. So I think what we had to do was to try and get back to what our beliefs about our music were when we first started. We were all pretty bored, and we all had a little bit of a crisis in the mid-90s. And we all had our ways, mostly self-destructive, of kind of dealing with it.
During that period, I found it very difficult to be still and silent with myself. And it's hard to write songs on, you know, in a room and focus on it when, you know, you got DTs or whatever. it's not easy. So maybe something about that record reflects that kind of neurosis, you know. Definitely my songwriting went to a weird extreme during that period. I mean, it's funny, you know, in the British press when it came out, it got 5 out of 5 in every single magazine, which is ridiculous, but it's just the nature of the British press. And then it became the most unpopular album. You know, within a year, everyone said it was the worst record ever made, as opposed to the best one, which it was neither.
We sort of started improvising on the Blur album a little bit, and that would be taped and then edited into something like Essex Dogs was done. I think I brought a Toazted album in or something, and people thought it was quite interesting. And we just started having a jam, and it turned into Essex Dogs. And that was one of my proudest. That was one of the little times where I was most pleased with what we'd done when we'd edited Essex Dogs up, and you know, Stephen had said, "Look, I've done this with it." It was a lot of music. It was probably about 40 minutes, 45, nearly maybe an hour of improvisation, which he edited into a piece, which I was really happy with. I thought it was brilliant.
Going to Iceland, and just that's what changed it for me. It was, you know, suddenly I wasn't writing my songs in West London. I was writing them looking out over the Arctic Ocean and mountains, and very dark, you know, no light in the winter, and just very different feeling, you know. And Yeah, I mean, it in its, you know, in my kind of sort of modest little way, it had a massive effect on me, you know. And I think musicians or whatever, I think any artist, if they kind of really connect with a place, it tends to change their lives, you know. I think, you know, it's difficult when someone's your best friend, and then how many years later? About 6 years later, you're in this big business together, you know, and you haven't really had time for a relationship to catch up, you know, because you've just been with each other all the time working, but you've kind of, you know, it was difficult, and it's still, you know, it's difficult for us to sort of be the friends that we once were, because we spend so much time with each other anyway, and it kind of, you know, if we spent any more time, you wouldn't have any life. Graham he listens to speed metal at the moment. That's what he likes, and I can hear nice stuff in it, you know, but it's not my choice. And I listen to a lot of, you know, I love film music. That's what I sort of love doing. I love Latin music, and I listen to a lot of odd stuff. I don't listen to any guitar music. And the only guitar music I listen to is Super Furry Animals, I think. Everything else is sort of... So there's always going to be kind of a slight conflict there, you know. I mean, it's creative tension.
I mean, there is sort of maybe two types. There's like a pop and a weird. And they're both like little cars in a race, you know. And the pop car was obviously very gleaming and fast. And the weird car was a bit like an old bright orange Saab and didn't really... But we've kind of decided to do a lot of work on the Saab. With all our albums, there seems to be... Like on the first one, there was Sing, which kind of was a doorway to the next record, Modern Life is Rubbish. Then on that record there seems to be a doorway through. There's always like one or two records that lead on to the next album. And it's like Essex Dogs from Blur was the doorway through to 13. And you can kind of go through the albums in that way. It's like albums is like a weird atrium of doors with lots of doors, and every door has got a song written on it, and you can go in any direction.
My life changed after finishing that record. I did it when I did this. I did at the same time I was doing this film score with Michael Nyman, so I did both things concurrently. I did one in the morning in West London, and I'd get in my car and I'd drive to North London and record the album in the afternoon and the evening, and then get up the next morning. And just that period of work was just... I'd never experienced anything like it before, but it kind of sort of, you know, it really broadened my horizons. And I sort of don't think anything of working like that now, you know, doing 100 things at once. I just realised that I was actually quite lazy. Musically, you know, I didn't push myself. I push myself a lot harder now. So, I think 13 for me is a record that's changed my life in a very positive way.
I think our musical taste, and just as we've just gotten older, we're a lot more relaxed. We found out there's more important things to life than packing out arenas and making park life and girls and boys. You know, you go mad if you do that for the rest of your life. You've really got to do stuff that you feel is important to your own spirituality or outlook or whatever.
It's harder for everyone else to get their side across than me. You know, I have to be careful not just making people do things, you know. I mean, because that's not what making music's about. It's allowing everyone else to sort of get into and do something they're really happy with. And it is true to a degree. I do write kind of some fast songs, especially so keep Graham happy.
You guys get credits. I mean, how do you write the songs? Is it just like Noel gets all the Noel? Damon gets all the credits.
It's not like that. We share.
We share.
We share the money. If that's what you're getting at.
Is it good?
What? The money? You soon get used to it. It's not as good as being famous, being rich. Being famous is better.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing, though. It just makes superficial things in life easier.
I mean, what's so good about being famous?
Well, it just, just like I just said, it just makes superficial things. It's not a reason to live, but it does make things easier. Like in the same way that money does. It means you can. You can get into nightclubs, you can get into girls' knickers, you can, it's just a sort of power that you can, but it doesn't, being famous, like having money, doesn't make you happy in itself, But, show me some, I think everybody really is interested in the phenomena of fame, otherwise we wouldn't have famous people, I'm interested in it, That's all.
Doesn't it ever tire you being famous? I mean, and don't you know, it's like, I mean, it's not lasting, I guess.
What is really good is when what's been good about this tour is that we're still sort of seen as a new thing here at home. We're just sort of kind of boring celebrity type figures, but in Europe everything's taking off and you're sort of endowed with this mystical power. But when you're first becoming successful, there's this wonderful feeling that you can change everything. There's a special power when you're getting your first taste of success somewhere, that it's the new thing, and that's, I sounded like a bit of a big head, but
Well, guess not.
That's what's been good about this tour, is that it's sort of been happening in all these countries for the first time, and I think people get very, and it's just exciting.
You guys never get tired of playing?
Yeah, completely bored shitless.
Yeah.
Don't you get tired of asking idiots stupid questions?
Yeah, totally. So
it's kind of, the more successful you become, the less, to a degree, playing forms a part of your job. I think that the periphery of being in a band tends to kind of take over more and more. So I mean, basically what we're playing for an hour and a half a day,
So last time you played the Paradiso, you were absolutely brilliant, but tonight's gonna...
But what? Tonight's gonna suck.
Well, the thing, I can play the whole set without looking at my guitar, We're a well-oiled, humping, pumping, fucking groove machine, I'm sure that tonight's gig will be of a sufficient standard.
Okay, we'll settle for that.
To make people wet their knickers, whatever. It's very hard to get excited about something you do every day, unless the audience is going absolutely mad, which has been happening, But then when that's happening every day, you just go a bit mad,
Get used to it.
What?
You get used to it.
No, you get used to that.
When it's happening every day, it sends you off a little bit. You go somewhere, everybody goes bananas, and then you go out and go bananas as well, because you catch the bananas disease, and then you go somewhere else the next day, and everybody's still going bananas, and it's in another country, But you do, the audience will lift you. You spend all day feeling tired and crap, and then you go on stage, and when you come off stage, which is when you should go to bed, you stop feeling tired and crap, and you go out all night drinking and going bananas, and you wake up the next day feeling crap, and it all happens again, and then I think you probably die when you're 30.
Unless you use enough heroin or crack or cocaine, I mean.
that keep you
They can
alive
keep
then?
it up. You don't need any sleep any longer.
Look at Iggy Pop.
Yeah, look at Iggy, he's still alive.
Choose life, choose cocaine.
I think we're a boozy band, really. I mean, that's. I don't think you can beat a gin and tonic, really, to keep you awake, keep you interested. But I mean, booze really suits this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a foreign place every day, it's just there's lots
like people offering you cocaine and whatever all the time.
I've never been offered cocaine. No, I don't think we attract that kind of person. A bit of champagne, really. That's what we get given.
Wow. Okay. Is it what?
Nee. Nee, hij knippert steeds. Staat hij.
It's working. It's working. Trust me. Will you guys check out the Sex Pistols when they play London?
I still think John Lydon makes brilliant telly. You know. Yeah. It's just British. Great. You know, he makes all those stupid twats from Green Day. You know, he shows them up for the insipid little rich kids that they are. You know, there's something real going on there. You know, it's just great telly. I mean, the rest of the band is stupid, obviously, but you know, and it's good telly.
Right. Well, I'm Graham, the guitar player.
And I'm Damon, the singer.
And I'm Dave, the drummer.
And I'm Alex James, bass player.
And it's Blur in its totality, unlike earlier this morning.
Unlike earlier this morning.
And this is just really relaxed.
It was Blur in its atonality.
And just talk and see what's going on. Now I have to get my wits about me with this record now. Which when I first listened to it, man, I was really, I don't want to say blown away because it sounds like trivial.
You can.
But
you can.
It made a definite impression on me. It blew me away, man.
Excellent.
It was very I don't know, I left this I wanted to hear more after the first track started. I wanted to hear more. It was very enticing. Unlike, you know, it was unlike anything that had been done, although it felt like I've heard it
before.
Not all before, but
no, I think that was the intention of it. It wasn't, you know, I think that's what that's one of our traits as a band is we do have that strange mixture of sounding as though you've heard it before and having no explanation why you feel that about it. But I think it's just the way that how we work in the studio and how we work as a band. We always think when we're going to make a song, we get key points. Like, for example, we've just done a track which is a disco track, so we wanted a sort of Duran Duran bass line and a sort of a house drum beat, and
a housey
the attitude of it with the keyboards should be sort of early 80s, you know, and so we put things together in that way. It's quite analytical in that sense. I mean, the actual, you know, the chemistry of making music is obviously entirely different to that, but the process is quite sort of, you know, defined.
well, you know, unlike some other people who go into a project, you know what you want to achieve. You have, dare I say, a concept in mind.
Yeah.
For what you want to do, and that's nowadays concepts are quite dangerous things to have.
Well, yeah, because you know it's sort of meatloaf territory, isn't it? Really.
Exactly.
I like meatloaf.
But I mean, he's made a brilliant '90s album, really, in the sense that it's Bat Out of Hell 2. You know, it should, for me, is the perfect cynical sort of comeback album.
From hell.
From hell.
Come back from hell. But having all together now, having an idea and wanting to do something, not as just as a track, but as a record as a whole.
Yeah.
And coming at what you want to do, the single concept, in many different ways on each different song, although it still has a continuity throughout, achieving what you said. I don't know if it's that familiarity or
deja vu.
Yeah, well.
That's just. I suppose that's just that's it, isn't it? You know? That's it.
Yeah. Well, if I should be so bold, but what was the concept? If I can get you to articulate. For me, listening to it, I don't know if it really makes much of a difference.
Space pirates.
Space pirates.
Mm.
You know, it makes much difference if you say what the concept.
No,
is
I don't think it should really. I think it's very open to
time bandits.
You know,
it's not a concept album, you know. It's become an incredibly meaningless concept. I think it means sort of a record made about 1970 by lots of smashed out hippies just jamming, man, sort of around a concept.
Indeed, but you did take sounds and uses of popular culture, not just pop music and harmonies and phrases, but certain things that that you can identify to a culture at a certain time, at a certain place, with a certain people, which for Americans aren't those particular people, because it has that. Some songs have that seaside kind of thing. Others have the.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, having visited Asbury Park, you know, I think there's quite a lot of similarity between, especially Seasides. You know, it's extraordinary. That's got exactly the same sort of deathly stillness that. Yeah, I mean, if anyone has been there, I think they know what I mean by that.
But coming, I mean, the use of this I don't know, musicology, as I like to think about it, as capturing, using a format not only just as some people do, is just to retro, as to capture a vibe, man, or because it sounds cool, but to actually utilize that to make a statement about something else in a contemporary way. I mean, it's extremely effective.
I mean, that's.
You seem to have grasped the plot magnificently.
Yeah. So, I mean, but
we don't have to say anything here, really.
well, Mike. Unfortunately, I'm.
Carry on.
I'm supposed to be inspiring you to talk about it, but.
Well, I think, you know, our sort of firm belief is, if we're talking about trying to get some kind of, you know, message across, is that it's going to take quite a while for the, you know, the references and the language we're using to really sort of start to really translate to more than just a sort of cult. And especially here, it's very, we're a cult band, I suppose. So people do come and see us, but only from out of the mainstream sort of thrust of the music.
Well, your first record
was the opposite.
Exactly. And now coming out with this record and playing shows to people.
Weirdly, playing shows to more people have come to see us this time. Which I can't really work out, really, because I suppose it's just word of mouth from, you know. And I like that at this time, you know, it's sort of, and we've just done the Conan O'Brien show, and I suppose that will sort of really help. But it's the way that we want to do it in America, because it's so easy to have your message annihilated through MTV and through just a massive campaign, and it really damages people. That's what I sort of. How many bands just sort of have these very genuine sort of ideals, and they go through the whole machine, and at the end of it, they've gone absolutely nutty. You know, and it seems they only seem to last 1 or 2 albums now before everything collapses. And the reason why that happens is because, you know, it is so dreadfully cynical. So you really have to preserve a sort of sense of who you are. Which is why we made this album, I think.
It's definitely a bold statement, as a very, very confident record. There's a lot of authority. In
we had to be like that because literally, with the exception of people close to us, everyone was saying, don't make this record. You're really shooting yourself in the foot, and make something that's more, less coded and more accessible. Because you're in danger of, destroying everything that you started with the first album. And so we did have to sort of really say, look, this is what we're making. We're not mad. It will make sense eventually. And they're going, no, it won't. You're mad. And
we know we're the record company.
Yeah. And so, we became quite sort of, obsessed. And that's probably why it is quite sort of aggressive in that sense of really sort of trying to make its mark.
You've been exploring Amsterdam yesterday evening?
Well, we spent quite a lot of time here in the past, so we were sort of reacquainting ourselves.
You knew where to go?
Well, we tried to go everywhere. We've been invading Germany all week.
Where have you been?
We've been Nuremberg, Bonn, Hanover, and Frankfurt. And it's a lot more chilled out here. It's rather nice. So we've just sort of been hanging around as is our want.
Are there less fans here in Holland?
Pardon?
Are there less Blur fans here in Holland?
I think people are a lot cooler here. You're a lot less likely to be molested on the street than you are elsewhere. So it's difficult to gauge.
You guys still walk the street?
We haven't sold that many records here, really. This tour's been fairly ridiculous. We've been all over Europe, and Holland and Germany are probably the only places in Europe where we can walk around without disguises on and not get swamped. Which is nice.
Is it that bad?
Is that good?
Is it that good? Now, what is it? Is it good or bad?
Well, you get tired of it fairly quickly when you realise you can't do normal things anymore. But it has got like that. But for Damon particularly, I mean, he's the kind of smiling public face of Blur.
Your new video, there's a lot of Clockwork Orange influences in that. You guys had anything to do with that?
I just have a mouthful of omelette. You want to deal with that one?
Yeah, I'll deal with that tricky one. Well, we get involved in every aspect of what we do. So obviously we got involved with but it wasn't just Clockwork Orange we were trying to kind of do the whole Kubrick Bonanza spectacular. There are bits from various things in there.
Why is that?
Why? Just because it fitted in well with the theme of the song.
And you're Kubrick fans, or?
Isn't everybody?
No, my mom.
Really?
Good call. Okay. It's about another world, so he said, let's make another world. And, I don't know, there's just some sort of chilling... I've got no problem with appropriating things off other people, because you always end up with something different in the end. But, that's just a sort of chilling, ambiguous, good-looking world.
You guys seen the movie Trainspotting already? Because it hasn't been out in Holland. Is it good?
It was the one they're all talking about. We've got some music in it, so we saw it we saw the offline cut of it and everything. I think I know we are part of it, so we're never going to say anything bad about it. But I do think it's a benchmark film. It's about a very provincial phenomenon, but it kind of transcends all that, and becomes a sort of singing, dancing metaphor for life itself, which all good pop culture does.
Can you say something about it, like what's it about? Because in Holland nobody knows about it yet, but there's this kind of buzz going on that you should go see it.
It's just about junkies in Glasgow, It's about sex and drugs and drugs. But you know, it's sort of a cross between Gregory's Girl and Withnail and I, or something.
You read it?
Pardon?
You read the book?
I've got the book, but
Because it's half written in Scottish dialect.
yeah, well, I mean, the film is, you know, it's a brave thing to do. You know, it's like blowing a big fart at Hollywood. You know, it's great. It's proper indigenous cinema. But you know, that's part of its charm.
You think it's just is it just a hype, or is it really that good? The book and the film.
Nothing's ever is that good.
No.
No, but it's good.
So it's overrated.
Look, you write anything down in the paper and say it's brilliant. You know, I don't know. I liked it. I've seen it twice.
There you go. Yeah, you guys been touring now for a long time. You working on new material?
We will be. Basically, this is the last date of the tour for this year.
The last date of the world tour. The Hangover starts tomorrow.
Yes. And we're going to have a couple of weeks off and then get working on the new album. And Damon's written a lot of songs already. And I wish I could say we're all raring to go with some enthusiasm. But this is the morning, so I can't.
You guys going on holiday? Where are you going?
It's the best holiday of all when you just come off tour, is to be at home surrounded by all the little things. It's a real luxury to be at home, you know, to have your own kettle and to know how your remote control works.
I mean, we do live in this ridiculous world where we're in a different place every day and we're perpetually not sure where the toilet is. You know, and it's very exciting, and this sort of this quite dreamlike procession of people and places and stupid events. So when you do when you do stop, it's nice to just sit down and do nothing and speak to nobody, and just sort of be very, very calm indeed, very calm and still. So that's probably what I'll do next week. I probably won't actually. I'll probably ring up all my friends and carry on going mad. But
generally, though, when you've been living in hotels for 2 years, the last thing you want to do is go and live in another hotel for 2 weeks.
How is Blur doing in America?
Better than here. We haven't, you know, we've got. Well, if you want the sort of record company report, I think they'd say, well, all right then, we're doing okay. You know, we haven't had a sort of. The annoying thing is that if we'd have released Pop Scene a year ago, it would have been a hit, and if we released Boys and Girls now, it would be a hit. And probably if we released Charmless Man this time next year, it would be a hit. But
so we're frantically working on a time machine at the moment. That's what all our efforts are going into.
You know,
allowing our resources.
Play to 4,000 or 5,000 people a night in the big cities, but we haven't really penetrated the male culture. You know, but I'm not really sure that I want to spend half my life on a tour bus in America. I'm quite happy being big in Europe.
We really are. We've got the best of both worlds in America in a way, because we're playing very, very big gigs. I mean, look, with the tour we've just finished, we were playing the same venues that Nirvana played on their last tours. I mean, you know, we're playing the gigs of a big band, but we're not selling thousands of millions of records, which means we don't have to spend all day kind of shaking people's hands and.
Stupid interviews.
We get to spend, when we're in America, we get to spend a lot more of our time actually doing the things we enjoy.
We are no longer the only thing that's not big in Texas, though, fortunately.
We could point you out some bars in New York City that are totally filled with Blur lookalikes.
Yeah.
Really?
The Blur lookalike thing's big in New York.
New York, we've always done well. New York and LA.
San Francisco.
It's the kind of middle America thrust.
Where most people live, unfortunately.
Yeah. We haven't really entered the farmer's consciousness yet.
No, I think, It's just a question of what you want to do. I mean, I know how to make an American hit record. I know what the ingredients are, but I'm not really interested in just selling a lot of records. That's the thing. In this year particularly, the benchmark of success in music has been sales. You know, and there's going to be a huge reaction to that. You know, when I was growing up, I listened to deliberately obscure music, and I'm sure that people like me who are growing up now really hate Blur, probably just because we've sold a lot of records. You know, you can't like something that your little sister likes when you're 16. So I think there's going to be a big reaction to that. You know, it
seems like that the underground is disappearing. I mean, especially in America, it's like...
Well, it's partly our fault. You know, we were the first band to sell 1 million records in Britain. You know, we started it. You know, but the alternative is the biggest thing now. It's become a big parody of itself. It is. You know, but that was always going to happen. You know. I'd be really scared if Motown was happening now, you know, because I just can't compete with music like that. I'd have no idea of where to start making music that good. But it's a piece of piss to make alternative music, you know. But that wouldn't satisfy my desires, my urges. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. A happy man. I'd have bad dreams about gorillas.
You were commenting?
No, I was just laughing at Alex's gorilla gag. No, it's just,
always goes down well, the gorilla gag.
Yeah, we like gorillas. There was... 2 or 3 years ago, when we were going to America, we were kind of, you know, going reluctantly, really, in a way, because we weren't selling particularly well anywhere else, and America's this vast big pot of money that the record company go all Google up and they look at, and so they try and... we're successful enough elsewhere now to make the record company a good living. So we really found that this time we can just go over there and enjoy ourselves, which is a great relief, really. And same in Amsterdam, of course.
I mean, selling...
You'll never get big in Amsterdam.
Do you know, that what we've had to ask ourselves is, do we just want to give people what they want to hear, or do we want to change the fabric of everything? You know, we did that in Britain. You know, we changed pop music in Britain, and you know, you have to tease your fine line as to whether you just want to give American MTV exactly what they want and just become so much fodder for American youth, or whether you want to actually stand your ground and be your own thing.
Isn't it?
You know, the time will come. You know,
isn't the time already here? I mean, you guys can do pretty much what you want.
To do exactly what we fucking want. Cheers. You know, it took REM to 6 albums to become REM. You know, so you know, and now they can just be REM for as long as they want. You know, that's the way to do it.
So you guys will keep up for a couple of decades?
I prefer to go the sort of Marianne Faithfull way rather than the Mick Jagger way. I think she's done it well. She's aged brilliantly, you know, elegantly. But, you know, if I'm poncing around with a bad haircut and bad trousers and I'm 50...
I'm still poncing around with a bad haircut and bad trousers. I'm 50.
You know, there's a good...
Oops.
I think being in a band's probably most fun when you still want to be 16. I still want to be 16. But if I still want to be 16 when I'm 40, then I won't be a very rounded person, really, I think. But I'll probably be rich.
The songs, they run from really mellow to almost punkish, but still it sort of sounds like they belong together. How did you manage that?
We ladled huge oozing quantities of red hot skill all over it.
Where do you get that?
Tesco's, your local skill supermarket. I don't know. I think whatever we do is going to sound like us. But we're fortunate in that people don't expect all of our songs to sound the same. So, we get some leeway to indulge ourselves.
Yeah, you used to be known as a sort of poppy band, but still, I mean, there's always an age to what you're doing, right?
Well, we like to think so. That's certainly what we've been saying in interviews. Yes.
No, because I was always wondering how come you guys are still so people think Blur is a band that's popular with schoolgirls and stuff, but I mean it's really loud and abrasive.
Yes, no, we like the schoolgirl angle. Keep on that one. That's what's keeping me awake. Yeah, schoolgirls.
Nah, come on, I'm just kidding.
I think we pretty much left the schoolgirl thing behind. It did rear its
ugly head.
I was going to say ugly head, but not at all ugly head for a while. But it just seemed very inappropriate, and it's kind of around the time of Parklife, and suddenly we won lots of awards, and records went permanently in the charts, and we kind of got adopted by the English tabloid press as being some kind of teen sensation, when the music we were making was weird music about transvestites, and pretty odd stuff, and we were getting screamed at by young girls, and it just didn't seem to fit. It just seemed very odd.
It must have been a weird time for you.
Yeah, I mean it was great for a year, but after that it really did start to get a pain in the arse, because people stopped noticing that we were, people started believing what they read in the papers and stopped taking any notice of what we were actually doing. We just, for all intents and purposes, turned into these cartoon versions of ourselves, where Alex was intelligent and liked cheese, and Graham was moody. I mean, it's just rubbish. It dehumanises you. As I say, it's great for a year, because the first thing that hits you is, I don't have to take any responsibility for anything now because I'm moody. I can be as much of a pain in the arse as I like because I'm moody. But after a while, it's like, come on, Graham, be moody. Go on, stop smiling, you're moody.
So how do you get along with the press right now?
All right, actually. I was just saying in my last interview, it's all going worryingly well at the moment. Worryingly well. Even people who've traditionally hated us and viewed everything we've done with suspicion have been lauding the album. Yeah, very worrying. So the bigger the ups, the harder the bumps on the downs, definitely. And this is a big up. I mean, this is an up like we've never seen before.
Yeah, but maybe that's also because you've proven to be around for a long time now. It's not like you can't be discarded as a hype anymore after 10 years.
No, I don't think we ever were. I mean, this is 10 years now. Yeah. Probably the first album was, but hype wasn't a fashionable word then, so nobody really used the word hype. But the one example of pure hype that we were entirely responsible for, no one actually called hype, bizarrely. The Oasis releasing the single on the same day thing, for which we should have won an award, was pure hot air hype drivel. And no one ever called that hype. But then when we, put out some studied and heartfelt melodies on the last album, people yelled hype. Bizarre. That's the wild world of hype.
Hey, so how do you get along these days? I mean, you've been together for 10 years. Don't you ever get on the verge of killing each other?
Don't we have to what?
Don't you ever get on the verge of
Oh, yeah, of course you do. But it's certainly, if nothing else, it teaches you to keep your head down, you know. Absolutely, you don't get involved in arguments that don't affect you.
And but I mean, that must be tough sometimes.
People. Yeah, it is tough, absolutely. I mean, it's like any, it's like a marriage. Definitely. No, it's like adopting a new family, with all that entails.
And how do you work together? Has that changed over years?
How we work together? Yeah, I suppose it must have done. It's constantly changing, really. But more so now, we're starting to improvise a lot more. A lot of the things that we used to look down our noses at, such as musicians turning up at the studio and waiting for a vibe, you know, waiting for the atmosphere to be right, you know, we used to say in exactly that tone of voice. And that's what we do.
Really? Did you write a great deal of this album in the studio?
Yes, a lot more than usual. Yeah. I mean, by writing in the studio, I mean, improvised it on the spot. Yes.
And how did the recording go? Took you ages, or?
No, no matter how much we drag our heels, it always takes exactly the same amount of time to record an album. I don't know why it is. No matter how much or little work you do, it still takes you 3 months. I've no idea why. It's just some kind of magic. Sorry, I'm not kicking you at the moment.
All the time.
Sorry. The magic 3-month figure. I don't know why it is.
And how did you find your producer?
Yeah, it's a little. That was my mental noise for toss-up between flippant answer and not flippant answer. No, he'd done some remixes for us in the past. That was all it was. And sometimes with remixes you get them back and you listen to it and you go, okay. And sometimes you get them back and you go, ah. And I think he'd done 3 remixes. So I'm doing it again.
No, now you're kicking the table.
Yeah, bloody table. And every time we got them back, you listen to them and you go, ah, he's had an idea. And that's, you know, the best producer is somebody who has ideas, you know. The producer really comes into their own when you spend a whole day on something and nothing has seemed to work, you know. And what you need is somebody with another 10 ideas that you can try, you know. And he is definitely a man of ideas, William.